Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished guests, and our esteemed members of our community. Welcome to the opening night of our vibrant Somali Week Festival 2023, where we celebrate the tapestry that is Somali culture. My name is Bar Hirsi. I am one of your hosts this evening, along with the phenomenal Zahra Ahmed, who will be co-hosting. Cade's Somali Arts and Cultures and their partners proudly presents the 15th annual anniversary of Somali Week Festival. Tonight, as we embark on this celebration of our 15th anniversary, we would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude and thanks to our founders, our supporters, our community, and our family and friends who have made it possible for this festival to be on each night, each year, I should say, year on year.
waxaan jecelnahay inaan u mahad celino dhammaan dadka soo qaban qaabiyay barnaamijkan Kate waxaan kale u mahad celinaynaa dadka maaragtay volunteerka noo ah dhalinyaradeenna aad iyo aad baad u mahadsantihiin waxa kale oo aan jecelnahay inaan u mahad celino dhammaan sponsorkii ama dadka taageera Somali Week Festival oo la'aantood run ahaantii aysan noo suurtagali lahayn sanad walba inaan halkan isugu imaano oo aan ku marti qaadno fanaaniin badan qoraa jilaa majaajiliste يعني دمان دقنكي culturekii hidihii Soomaalida lagu yaqaanay dhan kasta ama meel kasta dad Soomaali ay degan yihiin.
Okay, so the theme for this year of the festival, Somali Week Festival, is Trailblazers and Innovators, celebrating creatives who are paving a way, a new way, I would say, in their chosen fields. Also, the Somali Week Festival is coinciding with Black History Month. This happens every year, but towards the latter part of the month, which is from tonight, which is Friday the 20th of October, till Sunday the 29th of October. And you will see, I'll say over 20 events taking place. And it takes place in various places in London, various venues in London, various locations in London. Also, it's taking place this year in Bristol, in Leicester, and there's one more. And in Sheffield. Excellent. So it's growing every year.
Yeah.
The festival celebrates 15 years, and it's the largest Somali festival outside of the Horn of Africa. And as I said, this year we're focusing on our trailblazers and inventors. What I would say Somali Week Festival does is it amplifies, it spotlights, and it celebrates the best of our culture and those who, year on year, amaze us with what they do. What I am looking forward to doing is actually having a conversation with 4 of those this evening, those pioneers in their fields, and hopefully we'll be able to discuss and look at how the cultural landscape has changed and how these innovators and pioneers, I keep saying pioneers, but trailblazers, have changed those landscape.
sida baar sheegtay sanad walba Somali Week Festival ama mawduuc wuxuu qaataa mawduucan sanadkan waxay ku saabsan tahay dadka cusub oo waxyaabo maaragtay la taaban karo oo holkarada ah oo ku soo biiray bulshadeena marka insha Allah baar waxay la hadli doontaa dad qayb kamid ah oo maaragtay ay kamid yihiin qoraa ay kamid yihiin maaragtay film director uu kamid yahay marka insha Allah ma soo koobi karo hawsha ay qabteen ba dabcan ayaga idin sheegi doona sidoo kale festivalka sanadkan uu ka weyn yahay sanadihii la soo dhaafay oo wuxuu tagi doona magaalooyin kala duwan alxamdulillah waxa suurta gashay in meel kasta oo community ama mujtamac Soomaali ay degan tahay aan halkaas ugu tagno oo sidii hore aysan dadka isu baahnaan London anaga noogu yimaadaan run ahaantii martigelinta howl fudud ma ahan marka waxaan go'aansanay insha Allah inaan sanadkan u tagno oo waxaan tagi doonaa doonaa Bristol oo kale waxaan tegi doonaa Sheffield waxaan tegi doonaa Leicester marka intiina daawanaysa intiina la socota idinkana waxaan idin leeyahay isii diyaariyo fanaaniinteennii iyo maaragtay halabuurayaashii qoraagii annagoo martidii wadna oo guurayna baan idin imaan doonaa insha Allah.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, it is our distinct honor to now introduce the first esteemed keynote speaker that we have, only maybe for this evening, Michael Walls. So,
waxaan rabnaa haddana in aan halkan ku soo dhaweyno Michael oo ka mid ah guddiga Keynote laakiin inta aan Michael aan u wicin waxaan kaloo aan jecelnahay caawa in aanu xusi doono qof aad iyo aad qalbigeena u taabatay oo maaragtay yani dadka legend bay isticmaalaan waa marwooyinka kale wax badan dheer oo tusaale u ah run ahaantii dad badan soo gacan qabatay oo aniga aan ka mid ahay oo caawana ay sharaf noo tahay in ay halkan nala joogto waa maama Maryan Mursal aad iyo aad baan ugu faraxsanahay insha Allah in ay halkan nala joogto iyo waliba in aan caawa aan fursad u helno aan ugu mahadnaqno contribution-kii ay ka soo jeedisay maaragtay kaga soo qayb gashay dhaqankeena iyo hidaheena waa heesaa waa jilaa waa hal abuure waa gabyaa lama soo taaban karo waa business woman waa qof tusaale u ah gabar kasta hooyo kasta islaan kasta oo Soomaali ah meel kasta ay joogto welcome Michael.
Michael, can I just say a little bit about you before you come so that people know who you are? So Michael Walls is a professor of development, politics and economy at UCL. For the past decade and a half, his research has focused on the Somali Horn of Africa and most particularly the evolving political settlement in Somaliland. Michael is also the chair at Keynote, which is brilliant. He's been supporting, he's now chair. Please put your hands together for Michael. Thank you.
Thank you to Bar and to Zara. In fact, I always feel like I can't quite believe that I'm back for another Somali week because it feels like there's much less than a year gone by. And I guess that feeling must be quite literally true because it's actually now like 2 decades, not a decade and a half. But anyway, not to worry. But yeah, for the last 20 years, I've been working a lot in the region. And it's great to be here again, in spite of the fact that it feels as though the year has gone just a little bit too fast. Welcome to all of you. It's fantastic every year to see such a diverse crowd at the opening and throughout the festival. In fact, one of my great pleasures as chair of Keynote is that since our establishment in 2009 has been to see both the organization and this festival grow and mature so much to the point where we are now, as Bar just said, the biggest Somali festival outside of the Horn of Africa. Bar also mentioned Duxi Days and the success they experienced. And I just wanted to add something that she forgot to mention, which is that they were invited for the first time for any Somali play or playwrights or actors to the Edinburgh Fringe as invited guests to perform the play. It's fantastic to see that kind of development, that kind of maturity, I think, in terms of the festival, that we're able to be a fostering ground for that kind of talent. Now, it's no simple task to run a cultural festival. In fact, it's a mammoth undertaking. And I think as well as celebrating, and I'll celebrate a few more of the achievements of the artists that have been involved with Somali Week in a moment, but before I go there, I just want to take a moment to reflect on just how big a thing it is to manage to reach year 15 on a festival like this. It's nothing trivial when you consider all the artists that need to be looked after, the visas that many of them need, the venues that have to be confirmed, the tickets that must be put on sale, the budgets that need to be funded and managed, and you, the audiences, that need to be seated, entertained, and sometimes even challenged. And it's a testament to Ayan Mahmood that she has been able not just to keep this festival going, but to nurture and grow it over the past 15 years. I always feel like I should be saying more than 15 years. There were actually some Somali Week festivals before Cade was incorporated. So we're even extending the 15 years, but the 15 years is what we're celebrating now because that's the period since Cade was formed. So it's a testament to Ayan that she's been able to nurture and grow this festival and to expand its activities and also the cities we work with. Bart also just mentioned a moment ago, and Sarah, that now Somali Week Festival is no longer London Somali Week Festival, but also Bristol Somali Week Festival, Leicester Somali Week Festival, and Sheffield Somali Week Festival. And that too gives me huge pleasure to see that we're able to start extending the platform, the space that the festival creates for a celebration of Somali culture beyond the boundaries of London. In fact, the fact that not even a global pandemic could derail that process is true testament to Ayan's fortitude and resilience. Of course, I also have to pay tribute to the fantastic group of volunteers that she has built up over the years, and the small and dedicated group of staff that have supported that process. Thank you to all of you for your huge amount of hard work in bringing this festival about. This year, as you will already be aware, we've been delighted to begin an expanded partnership with Arts Council England. That partnership, as a member of the portfolio funding arrangement, means that we will be able to continue that process of growth and maturation well into the coming years. That's a level of security that we are looking forward to building on and have never had in the past, when each year has been a matter of pulling together what's needed to make that festival run. So thank you very much to Arts Council England for that support. It means an enormous amount in absolutely practical terms. But that's all very well. There has to be a reason for all that hard work. And I want to make the briefest mention of that too, because it's important that we remember it's not just that a festival is a big achievement. It's also all about what that achievement really entails and enables. The arts play a central role in all human societies, yet too often it is felt as if Somali arts and culture have been sidelined by too many prejudices about Somali society, that it is somehow a surprise for many outside the Somali community to discover that Somali culture is in fact diverse, dynamic, and rich. And to many Somalis in the UK too, who have themselves lacked the opportunity to celebrate that wealth in the way it really should be celebrated. The success of Cade that I really want to highlight now, and I hope you will all join me in this, is not about managing to run a festival every year, however big a challenge that might be. No, it's a two-pronged success. I am proud of the fact that Cade has been able to support a process in which all of you wonderful people, along with so many others, have been able to participate as audiences, as performers, as artists, in a way that encourages all of those of you who are Somali to revel in your culture, as you should do, and to play a part in its continued development. Because we're not passive participants. The arts are dynamic, they change, and they thrive on that change Without that change, they become mere museum pieces. At the same time, it's very important, and this is the second prong that I'm talking about in that success, it's very important that Kate has been able to use Somali Week to show to so many of us who are not Somali just how exciting, how vibrant, how dynamic Somali culture is. In just a moment, I want to get a little bit more serious. These are difficult times in so many ways. Conflict in the Horn has sadly become far too enduring a legacy of the worst kind, and it has been awful to see similar patterns of violence in an unfortunately growing number of locations, joined in the most appalling fashion by the recent escalation of conflict in Gaza and Israel. And I don't think I can stand up the front and do a speech on a cultural festival without mentioning it. So I wanted to. But this is not the place to be dissecting or analysing those troubles, as important as that task is, and it is important. But I do want to comment on something that I truly believe and that lies at the heart of Somali Week, which relates to that. The arts, whether they be expressed as poetry, theatre, or in visual media, or in some other form, offer a context in which we can explore difficult issues together, in a spirit of mutual learning and cooperation. Now, no cultural festival in itself can solve the great challenges we face, but events like Somali Week can, I hope, play a small but significant part in helping us to collaborate, to create, and to enjoy ourselves in ways that extend a spirit of friendship, understanding, and tolerance across boundaries. This year's festival theme, Trailblazers and Innovators, sets that tone, one that highlights the role of the arts in promoting innovative ways of thinking and of acting. The fact that the festival is a part of the UK's Black History Month too is significant in linking us with wider explorations of creativity, of challenges, of histories, and I hope of solutions. I haven't got time to run through all the many highlights of this year's festival. There are many. And anyway, you have your programs to help there, and Bar and Sarah have already mentioned some of them. But another fabulous link with both the present and the recent past that I can't help mentioning, and a testament to the value of working across musical, geographic, and cultural boundaries. One that I would really like to highlight lies in the chance to honour Marianne Marcel. It's such a privilege to have her here with us, to be able to recognise her decades-long contribution to Somali and indeed international music through her collaborations over the years, over the decades. What a privilege that is. And on that note, I'd like to conclude with a few comments and thanks. First of all, by again congratulating Ayan and her team on the fantastic job they have done, not once, not twice, but 15 times. And in fact, as I said, even more than that. I'd like to also thank our very generous supporters. I mentioned before the enormous role that Arts Council England has played in giving us the security to be able to build on the work that has been happening over the last decade and a half and expand Somali Week into new territories and new themes. So thank you to Arts Council England for that support. I'm not, by the way, going to read the whole of the list of sponsors in the bottom of the banner there. You can read them yourself, but I am going to mention a few of them. The second I'd like to thank is Faro Foundation for their steadfast support over all of those years. Thank you. We then have what I'm going to call a quartet of caring. We've had the pleasure of having the support of a number of organisations, each in the caring industry. And by that I mean HATS, Oasis Care and Training Agency, Thames Home Care, and Sahan Cares, all of whom have been huge supporters, and we're very grateful for Somali Week. The last few, I'd like to also thank our partners, organizations who have been willing to host events to welcome us into their premises. People including organizations including Women's Excel, Safi, Rich Mix, and SOAS. And lastly, of course, a huge thanks to the British Library, without whom we would not be sitting in this room right now. Thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoy yourselves hugely tonight and through the rest of Somali Week. Just once again, welcome and fantastic to see another Somali Week happening. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Michael. If we can give Michael another round of applause, please.
aad baad u mahadsantahay Michael adinkan aad baad u mahadsantihiin sida wacneed aad u soo dhaweyseen.
Okay, so the next part of the evening is a panel discussion with 4 phenomenal human beings, pioneers, trailblazers, inventors, innovators, in which I'm proud, or I should say privileged, to be able to have that discussion and to panel that discussion. Ahmed Farah is also the director of Arde, which I'm sure you guys have seen and heard of. And the film Ayanle, which I'm sure you're all looking forward to seeing as well. So welcome, give him a round of applause, please. Next is Yusra Warsame, which I'm sure you've seen her lovely, beautiful face on screen before. Is a playwright, a theatre practitioner, an actress. Yusra is well known for her remarkable work, which included Castle Rock and The Last Days of Mars, and I know there's many, many more which we probably haven't captured here. Welcome, Yusra. Next is Ayan Mahmoud, not to be confused with the other Ayan Mahmoud. Ayan's a writer, and I found out actually she's a doctor too this evening. She is an author who resides in my lovely part of London, northwest London. So I'm gonna be there, asking you to come to my school to speak to my students, by the way, so you shouldn't have shared that with me. And then in June 2023, her novel, You Think You Know Me, was chosen as one of the books of the month. Am I correct? And then last but not least, we have Fatima Farah. Welcome, Fatima. I didn't get a chance to meet you earlier. She's the founder of Fatima's Fellowship, which helps fashion designers make adaptable clothing for wheelchair users. Welcome. It is an absolute pleasure to be having this conversation with you. And I already promised Ahmed it's going to be a light-hearted conversation, nothing serious. We're just going to have a discussion, so nothing serious. Okay, so I know being a trailblazer or an inventor or being a pioneer of first in our community to do many things that you're doing currently is never an easy feat. It always comes with a story somewhere. Sometimes it's out of frustration we do something, sometimes because of unmet needs, sometimes because you think, oh God, I could do better than this person. And sometimes it's just pure luck. So what I want to start off with, the first question, everyone to be able to tell us, what is your story? What is the thing that started you off as the person to get to where you are today, to be the trailblazer you are today? Ahmed, do you want to start us off?
Oh, okay. Thank you all. For me, just storytelling. So I got a camera a while back, like 20-something years, and follow people just interested in what people have to say.
Oh, is the mic not working?
Is the mic not working?
Hello? It's working now. Okay.
Yeah? Mic's working?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now.
Oh, okay. It's this side, I think, so that's why. Oh, Yeah, for me, Somalis, there are storytellers, oral society, and poetry is huge in the country. Some people can tell story through words. Some they do through writing. So I've discovered early on that I was able to tell story with action, emotions, and just follow people and like find the emotions and then tell story through the camera. And it started that, and up to now, I'm doing that. And as Somalis, we have a lot of stories. And these stories need to be told to the next generation. The youth now don't have any idea about Somali films. We used to have, really stories being told by Somali. I'm seeing that now, Saeed Salah. They have no idea. So why can't we, do that so they know right now about our culture? Stories about Arroelo, Sayyid Muhammad Abdullah Hassan, all these things. So that is the stage we are going to get. But for now, you need a practical, practice. And yeah, that's why I got into it, just telling stories. I think my phone is off. I think. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, can I just ask, and I'm going to probe a little bit, but I know you're starting stories a little bit more interesting than that. You didn't just pick up the camera and be like, whoa, this is amazing. You need to tell us how that camera was picked up.
Accidental. I was telling you that yesterday. As Somalis who grew up in the West, we are in trouble a lot of times. We don't know who we are. We are kind of lost. And I was one of those kids. So I went with a program in Norway as an exchange program. So there was this white man who was filming the exchange. He broke his leg. And I was tall. So even though I was young at the time, he gave me the camera just to record. And I followed everyone with my camera for 2 weeks. I had never touched the camera. I've never told any story. But for somehow I came back with a story. So I've edited that story into 10 minutes. And I remember we had a reunion, and they asked me, can we air this on TV? And I thought at the time, they want to use clips of what I've shot. And I was very nervous about it. So at night, family called me and said, we saw your name on the TV. And they've aired the whole 10 minutes saying, directed by Ahmed Farah, camera Ahmed Farah, edited by Ahmed Farah. Everything as it was. And then the mayor of the city that I lived at the time came to me and said, will you be able to do my campaign? And we had a discussion about where have you studied all that. I said, I've never studied nothing. I just got this camera. I filmed stories, interviewed people, made a video, and then, this is it. And he asked me to do that, and I did that. I followed his campaign. And the prime minister of, the guy who was running for prime minister, Wouter Bos at the time, asked me if I could also, do his campaign. And at that time, I'm now doing 2 years filming stuff. And then I thought he helped me to get into a school, art academy, but I was not good at it. I was good at getting camera and tell the story. But then within 2 years in that school, I've got a job from MTV. And from that on, I've traveled around the world and I'm, telling stories. And
Still telling stories.
Still telling stories, yeah.
And see, that's why I need to ask you. Yusra, do you mind sharing where your story starts?
Yeah, if my mic's working. It's not working, is it? Oh, you can hear me. No? Yes? Okay, Assalamu alaikum. So I'm Yusra. How did my story start? I suppose it's interesting just picking up on what Ahmed said, as like Somali people, we're storytellers. So I think just in terms of being in our households and being able to speak English and Somali and hearing the two languages. And Somali, like our language is incredible, like it just evolves through speech, right? And we are the nation of poets, we know all these things about ourselves. So I think just through, and my dad, Ilahi Rahma, was born and raised in Yemen and educated in British military schools, and my Hoya is a desert nomad. So just the way they speak is on a different level. Like it's, so I think just being surrounded by language, and then by virtue of being Muslim, reading the Quran, it gives us an understanding of language and what it is to be human. And then also when you're in an environment where you're the other, you become the observer, whether you want to be or not. So I think that allows you a rich, kind of fertile ground to have something to say. Or, so I suppose that's where it started, is just by virtue of being diaspora and finding ourselves in different places. And we were born in Emirates, so I came here like aged 1 to Manchester. So there's all these interesting things that I think make up the individual, which therefore can make up the artist and the creative. And as a Somali immigrant, Hoy and Abba were like, get a proper job. So I used to do like a lot of youth politics and things like this, because so I used to do a lot of youth politics and British Youth Council stuff. And so my trajectory was to go into like international diplomacy and that kind of stuff. And I did a degree in criminology and sociology. But then whilst I was at Liverpool Uni, I was just really bored. I was like, what's, like, people aren't alive, like, they don't know how to converse, you know. And then I fell into a theatre and joined a youth group, and then we began to facilitate. At the time, it was by a guy called John McGrath. And so just meeting artists in Manchester and different types of people. And the thing is about the arts is it's everyone's welcome. So you tend to find people that are marginalised, people that are on the fringes of society. So it just create, again, another fertile ground of conversation. And we're storytellers, and how do we connect with people? And this need to connect, I suppose, is the big thing. So that's how I've kind of fell into it, I suppose. I never wanted to be an actor per se, but it's something that I'm really good at and something that I really study, like work really hard at. And I think people confuse what it means to be a creative person. I think people think it's very the outside team optics idea of it, but actually it's about stories. It's about stories, and so I guess that's how it started. Is just walking to a youth theatre when I was about 19 years old, and then from there, just learning what it is to be a storyteller, and in different forms as well. So writing and making theatre, and and then acting as well. Yeah. Well, and I just started, I'm clapping for myself.
I think we're going to continue this falling into something theme, isn't it? Ayan, do you want to tell us what sparked your now journey of being a writer and a creative?
I fell into it as well. I didn't walk into it. I didn't know what I was doing exactly. I took a weird route to being a writer. So, yeah, you mentioned I was a doctor in my intro. So I knew very early on that I wanted to be a writer. I was interested in reading, loved reading, and then I was like, I'll be an author one day. But yeah, loads of people say that. Loads of people have dreams when they're younger. I never imagined it was something I would ever end up doing. But yeah, the other thing I was dead set on doing was medicine. I was like, I'll be a doctor. I don't know why I said that, but I was so sure at that age that I was going to be a doctor. And yeah, that obviously took precedence at that age, because, to want to study medicine, to want to study engineering or anything like that, it does take a lot out of you in terms of, your student journey. So I spent a lot of my my younger years preparing for that, and then studying medicine. And I was at uni for 6 years, and I graduated last year, alhamdulillah, as a doctor. But then I walked into the NHS and walked out 8 months later, because I said it's not for me. I said it's not for me. I don't know, I did like that side of myself. I liked being academic, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm a good exam taker, and I like learning new things, which obviously sounds very at odds with someone who's interested in creativity, because often you hear that you can't really do both, or that if you're good at one thing, you won't.
As an educator, I have to challenge you on that one. I think
I'm good. Challenge me.
Yeah, I think being
I
creative.
disagree.
I think you are a creative when you're an academic. And
I think everyone is a creative,
100%.
and I think some people suppress that side of themselves when they get into academia and things. But I did also suppress that side of myself when I went into uni, and medicine was a big course. It was a lot of studying involved, a lot of pressure. So I kind of let go of my reading. I let go of my writing. But yeah, I think what pushed me into writing the book because I'd never written anything, like I'd never written a full-length book before I wrote this one in 2020. But I think we're all familiar with the story of Shukri Abdi, who was a young teenager who died several years ago. And it was just, hearing her story that stayed with me for a long time. And I just got to thinking about her experience as a young person in this country who, didn't know the language, didn't know the culture, and all the bullying she experienced really stayed with me. So I decided to write a book about a young girl who faces bullying and finds her voice and speaks her truth.
Thank you. Furthermore, I'm so looking forward to hearing your story. It is so interesting. Would you mind just sharing with us how it started?
Well, mine, life is a journey, So my life decided to take another journey. I wasn't born disabled, so I became disabled 12 years ago. So from being able to dress up quickly, take a shower and dress up quickly changed. And I didn't have anything to wear. So you cannot go to any shop and shop just like a normal person. And my Hoyo, may God bless her soul, used to send me nice clothes from back home. And one day I was complaining to her and I was telling her, can you imagine, Hoyo, there's nobody who actually designs clothes for us people. And my mother told me, if you wanted a change, it has to begin with you. And I thought, you know what, you're right. So I sat down and I thought, what do I do? I'm a disabled woman, so African, Qahoti. How do I do this? So I decided I wanted to sell myself to the media. And what I did is I came up with Faduma's Fellowship. So I thought I'm going to run the first ever designer competition. So I did something like the X Factor. I had a panelist. I had everything. So I had a lot of people who applied. I had designers. So, I was feeling like Simon Cowell that time. And there was a prize to be won. So I finally got a winner. I co-designed the first ever adaptive wear in the UK. And I became the first person in the world to take 6 wheelchair models to London Fashion Week.
Thank you. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Was there ever a moment you thought, I can't do this. This is crazy. What am I doing?
No, I never thought so, actually. I just thought, my mom passed away just before the fashion show. And I thought, I'm going to make my mother proud. I will roll. And when we were about to hit the runway, we were told models do not smile with their mouth open. They smile with their eyes. Then I called the guy who was doing the show. And I asked him, is this the first ever wheelchair modeling? He said, yes. So whatever we do today will be in the history for the rest of our lives. Well, he said, yes. I said, we're going to smile. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I need to tell you something about Somali women. We tell people what to do, we're not told what to do. And he said,
the Somali men in the room are like, yes, we know.
So all he did was just like, okay.
Just go.
So when I was rolling down the catwalk, I was smiling, but deep down inside, from somebody who died 3 times clinically, not being able to move a finger, to be able to design, and to see, to be the first hijabi wheelchair model being a Somali, and as you know, Somali people, we kind of hide our disability. And here I was flaunting in front of the whole world, all the cameras, going like, Somali one, So I had fun.
I love that, absolutely love that. This segues me straight beautifully into the next question, which anyone can take in the panel, all of you can answer. To what extent is your Somali Nimo, maybe we'll start with Yusra. To what extent is your Somali Nimo, or your identity, or your culture growing up in this country, your culture being raised by Somalis, has been a driving force in your creativity and how creative you are?
Interesting. I think what I said before drives, but it'd drive me if I was a bus driver, it'd drive me if I was a nurse. Do you see what I mean? It's part of who you are, right? I think then, because I am Somali, I look very Somali, like, to the point where when I studied in Liverpool, it's one of the oldest Somali communities, right? I'd walk down the street thinking, it's past Maghrib, right? My auntie would get a call, Hagaba Marise, Hagaba Marise. I was like, what are you talking about? I forget about Garania. And then they're like, from my face, they're like, Inna. So there's always like this lens on you, right? From our Somali community, right? So that's an interesting thing. And I think, because I look Somali, then the parts obviously I'll get is Somali. And at first it was really hard because I think people will never give you credit for what you do. They'll be like, oh, like this is Echinabi, but like you get this because you're this or you look that way, right? Somali people like you get this but not necessarily considering the amount of work that it takes and the integrity of what it means to be an artist and deliver stories. So I really struggled with taking Somali parts because I didn't want to be representative of something that I'm not representative of. I can only be myself, and I come from the people that I come from. So it's been a really interesting journey. It's only when I was younger, there was Lem Sise, actually, an Ethiopian poet that you guys might know, was like, Yusra, listen, do you think a white guy from Manchester, if he gets a part, he'd be like, oh no, I can't take this because I'm from Manchester, I feel like I'm taking. He's like, you are Somali, and Somali people are like, you are Somali, so why wouldn't you take a Somali part? So I think it's the idea of, that thing of people don't necessarily, they think it's the outside stuff when it comes to acting, and I think there's a lot of stereotypes, there's a lot of like projection about what the actor does or who the actor is, so there's this idea that we're aspiring for this thing, this attention thing, rather than the work itself. So I kind of really shy away from the lens in a lot of ways and want to just concentrate on the work. So I think it took me a while to just go, hey, no, this is what I do and I'm good at it, and I happen to be Somali, and not to listen to people. And funny enough, like this week, I hardly see Somali people sometimes, but this week, 3 Somali guys, one that I grew up with that I've not seen for years, like for 20 years. There was like 4 Somali families in Manchester, so one that I grew up with, a young lad from Kenya, actually, from where you're from, called Elmi Ali, a poet from Manchester, and then another young Somali guy called Hemdi, who's a music maker from Manchester. All 3 of them I bumped into on one day, and they all gave me little bits of advice, and they all said lovely things like, oh, we're proud of you, or we love you. And it gave me such a sense of confidence of like, of course, like there's people that would criticize you, but there's also those that will embrace you for what you do as well. So, and I think that's important for young Somali people to know. It's like, if you're good at something, just do it, you know, don't. And even one of them said, don't care about anyone else, just think about yourself. And I'm a big woman, and I got internet leg, I'm touching 40, I'm like, oh yeah. Why not always with it as well, you know? Not always be so concerned in, because as an actor, when I do play Somali roles, I find myself not only having to be the actor, but also having to negotiate the nuances of what it means to be a Somali woman, and to make sure that we're not falling into a stereotype or in a dulkan or lusafen, do you know what I mean? In an elebehdilin. I'm very, very careful of that, and it's quite exhausting, but I think now I feel more confident for my own self, yeah, so. Does that answer your question in terms of Somali Nimo?
Really deep way. Ahmed, because we were talking earlier about Somali Nimo, and I was like, is there Kenyatta Nimo? Is there something else? And they were like, no, actually, it's just Somali Nimo. Yeah. It must be something else for different cultures or different people or different ethnicities. But how does your Somali Nimo show up in your work?
Somali, when you asked me that question, I said, I don't know.
Yeah, you was like,
But lakin, if I go back to, we've done the film in Kenya, and we had a extra. So let's say we have a scene here, and then we have all these people are extra. And then the Somali extras, whenever you say, like action, and we repeat again, and then they're like, oh yeah, anigu magid baan ahay meesha maxay taagay iska soo araya. And then I'll tell them like, "Wani Somali nimada naga daaya," So I don't know whether it's madax adeg, I have no idea. Or I'll have, like another scene where, I ask someone, I want you to walk towards that person. And then he'll tell me, "Warniyo xagga aan ka soo socdo aniga." Let me come up from that side because he wants his face on the camera, but I don't want your face on the camera, so I want you to walk that side. And then I'll say like, "Warniyo Somalinimada naga daa," Somalinimada naga daa. So I don't know, Somali, when we say Somali, is it the language, is it the face, or is it madax adega? It's really, really difficult, like to give Somalis a direction because they have an opinion about everything. So someone will come to you and then he will look into the lens and into the screen and say like, "Wariyaha waad madooda kamarada kuma qabanayso." That's why they repeat so many times. and then he'll tell me, "Ninka ma cadeyn karaysa, wadiyo Somalinimada naga daa," So I don't know, I will say, what is Somalinimo? I don't know.
I think it's strength.
But
What you
also,
just described is resilience, bossiness, all of those things are Somali.
all this together, then, okay, let's say that. Okay, all that together, Somalinimo. Yeah.
So it does show up in your work. There's no way you would have got here without having that hard-headedness that I'm going to do this.
I think so.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. See, Somali women just answered for you, but it's okay. Got you.
Thank you.
Who's next? Who would like to answer that question next?
Well, for me, it would be the resilience.
The resilience of Somali. Okay, Somali Nimo.
Because I refuse to be disabled. I'm not in denial. I'm not in denial that I'm disabled, but I refuse to be disabled. From the first time the doctor told me you'll never be able to move a finger in your whole entire life, I wasn't speaking, but I just did this. I couldn't speak, but in my head I just said, "Shaqollak."
Ana sheegaysaa. Actually, ma garanaysid Somali baan ahay. There you go.
So I thought, immediately when I was told, "You'll never be able to move a finger," and this is what the doctor told me, "You'll never be able to move a finger." The picture I got after I asked, I prayed, I said, "Ilahi wa sabr si," God give me patience. The picture I got is I saw this Somali hoyo in Badia collecting firewood, looking after goats, having a baby on her back, living in a small hut, you understand, fending for her children. And I thought, girl, you're good. You live in the UK. You can do this. You will ace this, And I just did, And until today, he asks me, when I told you that, I was expecting you to cry. I just wanted to know, Faduma, what does it mean? And I told him, one day I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to do a movie about me. By then, I wasn't thinking about fashion,
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, you'll know the meaning of...
So, you know what? That reminds me of Ayede Launa Harris story. When you get to a certain age where there's no filter and you say something like that whole that
I wasn't
representation.
speaking because I couldn't breathe. I was intubated.
That's the reason why. Okay.
So the only thing I could use was my tongue.
Oh, okay.
Even my eyes weren't moving. One of my eyes was closed. Just up. Basically, they thought I had the disease called locked-in syndrome. So nothing was moving for me. I was one tak na one tuk na. You understand? But then I could speak with my eyes and my lips and my tongue. Yeah.
You did. Thank you so much. Ayan, do you want to have a go at that question?
Yeah, I think how I connected to the Somali culture in like for my writing and things was definitely my experience at school. So I didn't care about being Somali in school because it wasn't cool to be Somali back then. I think it's changed, but back when I was in school, it was about banana and rice and pirates and like high foreheads, and that was like the only thing you knew about a Somali. And yeah, I mean, obviously that meme from the Captain Phillips movie is very well known as well. And yeah, that was my experience of being Somali in school. So I didn't necessarily like care about my culture that much, feel connected to it. And I think that changed once I left and I got to uni. And I started to see, oh, there's something to this culture, and something to, you know, to the people that I'm from. And it started to resonate with me in a different way. And then when I got the idea to write a book, I was like, there's no way I'm going to write anything other than a Somali character, a Somali main character. And diversity is a big, like it's being talked about a lot more now in children's publishing. And obviously it's very important that we get that diversity for children's books because children, you know, their reading is so important and informs, you know, not just their childhood, but their adulthood. So that's really important. So I knew if I was going to ever write something for teens and young adults, it was going to be a main character who was Somali and also Muslim. And I know we have some amazing Somali writers, Nadif Mohammed, and, you know, we've got Warsan Shira in poetry, and, you know, we've got some amazing people there. But that representation was definitely lacking in children's fiction. So I just knew I wanted to have those characters, and I knew I wanted to have that culture represented on the page and have, you know, Somali language on the page here and there, and, you know, have the Arabic on the page here and there, and for people within, you know, our culture to see that representation and feel themselves in the story, but also other people who don't necessarily know anything about Somali culture or know anything about the people to start to understand something beyond like the negative perceptions that we all, I'm sure, are aware of with Somalis. Yeah.
You would be happy to know that in schools that is happening naturally. Kids are using Somali words. We just had our culture day at school, and I will tell you that there are girls who are wearing dura, and I'll say, what are you wearing today? And they'll be like, oh, miss, I'm wearing a dura. My mum's friend gave it to me. And they'll tell you I'm wearing a bati. I've got, like, everyone is, the culture of sharing with Somali culture is so huge now. I watch kids and I'm just like, what was that word you just said? And I'm like, where did you know so many and I'm words. Like, where are you getting these words from? Oh, my friend, miss, I know a lot about Somali culture. And like banana rice, whenever I do a cultural event, guarantee you everybody says, miss, are you going to bring banana? Don't forget the banana. And I'm like, miss, you bring in rice and mousse. They will say, wallahi kushi. And I'm like, wallahi, we have come, we have landed. And I'm very happy for the kids. But it's nice, I like it. I work in a very diverse school, so I love seeing our children being no longer invisible and being visible for the right things, not for the other things that you're very othered when you come to a country and you're very new to a country. So yeah, so may that long live, and people like me, inshallah, will try our best to continue doing that. And the rest of you who are not in education, can we please have more teachers who are Somalis? And I'm going to keep doing that everywhere I go.
Somali Week is not only about putting youngsters on the platform, but it's also honoring those who actually carry us, carry our culture, carry our struggles, carry us in so many ways, and who better to celebrate and acknowledge than Maria Morsal. So Edo no kale iso do hoy la so do way so do hoy Marian laga soo bilaabo 2007 iyo ka hor intaan Somali Week maamuli jirin ba waxay ahayd way qayb bay ka ahayd dhaqankeena qayb ka tahay waxa weeye abwaanka qofka noogu weyn aabaha Somali Week Festival oo nala jooga isagoo magaceena dhan ku hadlaya baan doonayaa inuu maama Maria Mursal noo guddoonsiyo waxa weeye awardkan waxa weeye award aan ku leenahay maama Maria waa mahadsan tahay thank you
magaca munaasabadda festivalkan lagu magacaabo toddobaadka Soomaaliyeed, magaca hal abuurka Soomaaliyeed, magaca inta qabanqaabisa, magaca Soomaaliyeed. Waa aniga farxad gaar oo gooniya ii ah in aan astaanta mahadnaqa guddoonsiiyo Maryan Mursal Ciise.
inkastoo aanan maanta oo dhan fadhiyo aan saakisaan sagaalkii subaxnimo u toosay ilaa hadda soo jeeda aanan jiranahay lug baa waxa iga dhacay maxaa la yidhaahaa stroke markaasaan hargeysa tagi waa iga soo ba'ay iyo gacan marka haddana hadda igu soo laabtay hadda waxaan rabaa hargeysa inaan u noqdo exercise October baan baxaya haddii ilaahay yidhaaho exercise baan rabaa inaan kusoo sameeyo meeshii anigu aan ka deganaa meesha aan ka deganaa marka aad iyo aad ku magacaabay masallaha deganahay maasha allah aniga aad iyo aad waxaan ugu xumahay caawayto anigoo aan dhaqaaqi karin oo bisaakayto 3 saac saan u toosay ilaa hadda aan soo jeedo xal oo dhan aan soo jeedo shal oo xinaan marsanay ilaa meel baa u socday adirijan iska dhigay tan shal ma anasan mar diricaan soo tolo mar aan makeup marsado mar aan maxalliga xin marsado ilaa meeshaan aan soo istaagayay marka waxa waaye alxamdulillah rabbil caalamiin marka hadday si fiican noogu dhamaatay laakiinse anigu waa jirana hadal badan caaw kama gaari karo aad iyo aad baa u mahadsantihiin waxa weeye aniga fankii ayaan caaw joojiyay iisoo duceeyay ilaahay inuu calooshayda ka masaxo oo aan dib ugu laaban wixii aan dambi soo galan inkastoo aan Soomaali waaninahayay oo aan waligay alle wax dhaqdhaqaaq aan ku heesin laakiin Soomaali baan waaninayay 30 sano ka hor ilaa 40 sano ka hor baa waxaan la Soomaali u diiday naftiina u diiday maanta taagan tahay marka waxa weeye iisoo duceeyay ilaahay inuu qalbigayga ka masaxo oo meel fiican mariyo iisoo igu wal musiga galo ayaa waxa dhacday nin gaana ka yimid oo laga yaqiinay Denmark laga yaqiinay ayaan la heesi jiray markaan saa u la heesi jiray waa ku soo cambaxay maalinta beeta ayaan aniguna soo cambaxay markaas buu wuxuu igu yiri ma kula heesi karaa maya markii ugu horeysay waxaan yiri ma kula heesi karaa markaas uu yiri ma dhici karto markaasuu yiri ma kula heesi karaa Maryan anigoo soo cambaxay oo wal music galay oo kaale arag markaasa whatever buu yiri markii hore markaasaan aniguna markaas maalintaas waxaan ku iri whatever wallahi sidaasaan ku soo cambaxay wallahi anaa koox samaystay Daanisha markii dambe adduunka oo dhan ma ka qayb galay wal musiga galay meel walba adduunka tagay oo ka soo heystay ha meel walba ka soo qayb galay meel walba ninkaas ciilkiisa Soomaali xinka maxaa ku taqaanaa
وشكلي فاضبو وأنا طلوا عرفتكم thank you هذه هاي إلى كده وين هويو
waad mahadsantihiin dhammaantiin waxa aynu soo gaarnay gabagabadii caawa waxaan jecelnahay hadda inaan idinku soo dhaweyno fanaanadeennii caanka ahayd oo maaragtay dal dheer nooga timid oo iyada aad u mahadsan aan ku faraxsanahay aragtideeda waa Aamina Faarax nala soo dhaweeyo
qabkaygana ma jebin karo jacayl ma qabi karo qasdigana sidaa wado qof neceb ma dumi karo شرفتك ما الدقوم قلبي قايم ما جبين كرو وسيقوم الردي كرو قب يا شرفتك ما الدقوم قلبي قايم ما جبين كرو وسيقوم الردي كرو qasdigana sidaa wado qof neceb ma dumi karo waa qaali libintuye guul iiga ma qadi karo qasdigana sidaa wado qof neceb ma dumi karo